I am Gary Rosen, and I am so thrilled to be here with Nicole Skinner, the winner of our You Be the Judge contest, and you are going to be on Judge Judy's bench. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe it. Yeah, I definitely have some big shoes to fill.
You do. Now tell us why you entered this contest, how this all came about for you.
Well, I've always been interested in pursuing a legal career, and watching Judge Judy is always something that my mom and I have bonded over. So she told me about the contest, and obviously I was more than excited to enter.
Your entry was very, very interesting. You actually donned a robe.
Enough of that. I don't care for kiss-ups, I care for justice. I am a huge fan. I've been watching your show ever since I was a little kid. I'm actually president of my fraternity right now, and I have to resolve a lot of conflict.
How that came about, how you came up with the idea of your video.
Well, I currently serve as student body president at the University of Idaho, and so I managed to get a hold of our law school courtroom, use my graduation robes to look like judge robes, and I just knew I wanted to put a creative spin on my entry so that I would stand out a little bit.
Well, you certainly did. And now you're going to be trying a case.
I got some tips from Judy right before at
Judy,
lunch.
not just Judge Judy,
Yes.
Judy.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're on first name basis now. No, but she gave me some words of advice for keeping control of the court. So
What was her best advice?
She said to give them the eyes
Okay.
if anyone tries me.
All right.
And she demonstrated that on me, which was quite an honor. So
Okay.
I'll have to practice that.
Well, good luck, and we're going to talk to you after.
Thank you. Sounds great. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Mr. Gale, you knew Mr. Briscoe previously, correct?
That's correct.
And how do you two know each other?
We started dating about a year ago in the summer for a few months.
And clearly it didn't go too well because you're here today suing for the court maximum of $5,000 for medical expenses,
That is correct.
So I'm reading your complaints here. It seems like you two were at a bar. You had both been drinking. There were some insults and comments thrown around, maybe some tension with friends. And then the end of the night came around and you, Mr. Gale, needed a ride to get home from the bar. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you decided to seek a ride from Mr. Briscoe instead of just finding a taxi or an Uber, correct?
He offered.
He
yes.
offered. So you got in the car with Mr. Briscoe. What happened after that?
Well, I decided to sit behind the driver's seat in the middle row on his SUV. And on the drive back, he started making comments about that joke that I made earlier that night to his friends about some cocktail or something like that. And
Your Honor.
You'll have a time to tell your story in a moment.
Thank you. And he was telling me what I should have said, and we got into a verbal altercation. He reached behind the driver's seat and hit me in the head.
Okay, is that correct, Mr. Briscoe?
No, it isn't, Your Honor.
In your experience, what happened after Mr. Gale got in the vehicle?
So when we got in the vehicle, he did decide to sit in the middle, in the back seat, but he was like right up on, he was like right here.
Okay.
He was practically in the front seat of the vehicle, but sitting in the back. He was yelling in my ear. I was driving. I pushed him off of my shoulder, and he decided to hit me in the face twice.
And then what happened after that?
I pulled over, and I told him to get out, and he didn't want to get out the car. So I got out of the car, and then he jumped out, and I asked him what was his problem, like why was he so upset? And he swung on me 2 more times, and that's when I decided to beat him up.
That's not what happened.
Did I ask you a question?
Sorry.
Thank you. So why did you get out of the vehicle after stopping it on the side of the road?
He didn't get out of the vehicle first. I had to get out because he was like, you said you're going to take me home.
Okay, and clearly that escalated just a little bit.
Yes.
Is there a police report from this night?
I did file an incident report. Thank you.
Thank you, Bird. The police report seems to match your story. So were you resisting getting out of the car, Mr. Gale?
I wanted to get out of that car. I did not want to stay in that situation at all.
It's not true, Your Honor.
Are you claiming that you were the one who initiated the stopping of the car then?
After he hit me, yes.
After he hit you, you
Yes.
pulled over to the side of the road and
Yep.
were telling him to get out of the car.
Yes.
Well, clearly you both were not right in the head this night because you had both been having some drinks at the bar, correct?
This is true.
One of you decided to drink and drive.
Yes.
That was the first mistake right there. Is there a medical report from this night?
Yes, I have the medical report right here.
Okay, I would like to see that as well, please.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you. Mr. Briscoe, in detail, can you describe to me what happened once you two exited the vehicle?
Well, I got out of the vehicle first, and he was sitting in the back seat, and he was like, "You said you were going to take me home." And so I was like, "Get out of my car." And so he didn't get out on the driver's side where he said he was sitting because he had moved over to the passenger side. And then I went in front of the car, and I was like, "What's wrong? Like, tell me what's going on. Why are you so upset?" And he decided to swing on me 2 more times. And at that point, I've had enough of him trying to hit me.
See, it's interesting because your answer that I have here is not completely matching to the story that you're telling me. Here you say, quote, "Aaron punched me twice and I pulled the car over. He jumped out and I told him to calm down and get in the car. He punched my window, but thankfully it didn't break."
That is not true.
And then it proceeded to the rest of the fight. So your own words are not true because I'm quoting you.
No, what I said was I asked him to get out the car. And then
This
I did get out the car.
explicitly says you never allude to any resistance of Mr. Gale exiting the vehicle whatsoever.
I did on the phone call when they called me.
Well, you didn't say it in your answer whatsoever. So clearly these stories are not matching up at all. So it sounds like Mr. Gale did initiate some of the conflict. It sounds like you were being aggressive within the vehicle.
But,
You
but
were,
it wasn't any of the physical.
I didn't ask you. I'm referring to something you already said. I do think that Mr. Briscoe is guilty for the way that the fight resulted, for getting out of the car. It would have been incredibly easy for you to just drive away after the initial conflict had ensued within the car. So because you both are responsible for drinking that night, obviously there were a lot of emotions involved, and you both initiated the conflict in your own ways, I'm going to grant the plaintiff $2,500 to fund part of his medical expenses.
But Your Honor, I mean, that was over $20,000 of medical expenses that I incurred. I should at least get $5,000.
Right, but you also initiated a lot of the conflict
Exactly,
yourself.
But if it's
and
going to be
brought plenty of it
50-50,
onto
then shouldn't it
itself.
be 10,000 if the medical bill was 20?
I am the judge. I'm granting the plaintiff $2,500 for medical expenses instead of the requested $5,000. We're done here. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
You just did your first case. How exciting!
It's very exciting.
What was it like?
It was somehow even harder than I thought it would be,
Really?
but elements of it came naturally too.
You seem like a natural. What was hard about it?
Thank you. It's hard to know what questions to ask on the spot.
But you did, and there was a lot of back and forth and give and take, and you were tough on the litigants. You were like a
tried.
little Judge Judy.
A little Judge Judy. I tried harnessing a little bit of her energy.
Well, I think she's going to come in and talk to you. Here she is. Look.
Hello.
We had a great lunch, and was I successful in telling you that you're really a natural? Because sometimes when you have a natural gift, like you have a natural gift, you should cultivate it as quickly as possible. Anyway, I thought I was so proud of you today. I really thought you were extraordinary, poised and in control. Just great. Congratulations.
Thank you so
Judge,
much.
one question. We had a lot of entries for this contest, but Nicole's stood out to you. What was it about her video that did it?
It was just different.
Yeah.
And it showed a certain imagination. And not only an imagination, but she really understood the mechanics of the give and take, of asking questions. I just thought she was an extraordinary young lady. And I think so even more, having watched you try your first case.
Thank you. It means
Thank
the
you.
world to me.